With the Edge of Fate arriving in less than a month, I thought I'd continue covering builds you'll want to have ready for the new expansion, with today's video covering Warlock builds that I think will be dominant in the new expansion. The builds in today's video have been carefully crafted to take advantage of the new artifact mods and armor system reworks to provide you strong and fun builds to take in. If you have yet to see the Titan build video, I'd recommend doing so if you don't have any Titan builds prepared, as it features 3 builds that are going to be insane. But with that being said, I'm SniperKH, and let's hop into the video. For starters, I wanted to talk about Solar Warlock, as I truly believe Solar Warlocks might have a fun build in store for them in the new expansion, and thankfully this build will not be a support focused build. I'd recommend copying the loadout you see on screen for starters. When it comes down to what exotic to pair with this build, we'll be using Eunoia, which are the new exotic Warlock gauntlets, as I wanted to make a build with these. The way this exotic works is that it increases the amount of damage Hellion projectiles do, similar to Full Cord, but after it has traveled far enough, the projectile will split into Scorching Shrapnel. For the weapon to pair with this build, I recommend either Sunshot if you want a tried and true add clear weapon, or a hierarchy of needs assuming its upcoming buff is great. Regarding what armor stats to focus, I wanted to make this build be as focused as possible on keeping Hellion uptime high. For the armor stats to focus, class and health aren't bad options, as class will let you get your class ability back faster and will grant you more health per orb. You could also consider focusing on the weapon stat instead of health if you'd like a nice boost to weapon damage. For artifact mods, we'll go with Flame, Fiber, and Freeze for the Siphon combination, Fever and Chill for easy access to Radiant, Elemental Benevolence for bonus class ability energy when applying an elemental buff to allies, Elemental Coalescence for an easy way of getting fire sprites, and Radiant Shrapnel to spawn scorched projectiles while dealing sustained damage when radiant or defeating scorched targets. For the second build, I wanted to recommend Warlocks. We have a classic build that is going to take the place of Stasis, as it's just better than what Stasis would provide, and that build is Prismatic Getaway Artist. Unsurprisingly, this build is still going to be great despite it getting a nerf heading into the Edge of Fate. The nerf this build will be receiving will hit the Bleak Watcher aspect, removing one of its current 3 fragment slots, lowering it down to 2 available fragment slots. However, this won't be an issue, so let's get into how to make this build great. For the subclass layout, you'll want to copy the one you see on screen. Since we're losing a fragment slot, the one fragment I'd recommend dropping would be Facet of Hope, as I think we'll have more ways of generating our class ability, so losing out on Facet of Hope won't be too destructive. For the armor, you'll want Getaway Artist. For the weapon, I'd recommend either Sunshot or Wicked Implement, though I think Sunshot will be better. In terms of what armor stats to focus, I'd recommend Grenade for the grenade regeneration boost and bonus damage, and Weapon for the weapon damage boost. In terms of artifact mods to get, I'd recommend Flame, Fiber, and Freeze for the Siphon combination, Fever and Chill for the Radiant or Frost armor on rapid precision hits, Elemental Benevolence for the bonus class ability energy from granting allies elemental buffs, Cauterized Darkness which will buff our solar damage against targets affected by stasis or strand debuffs, Elemental Coalescence for bonus frost armor stacks, and Shield Crush, as we'll have both frost armor and radiant constantly active with this build, boosting the regeneration of our melee and grenades while also boosting their damage. The final build we will be covering in today's video will be for Strand Warlocks, and the build we have for you today is one that is incredibly fun to use and could be dominant in in-game content. For starters, you'll want to copy the subclass layout you see on screen. The purpose of this layout is that we want to maximize the potential of our Threadlings and our Suspends. For the exotic armor, I chose Swarmers, as it allows us to spawn in more Threadlings through Tangle Destruction, and allows our Tangles to unravel targets. For the exotic weapon, you'd be best using a Strand weapon to maximize the potential of Strand in this build. Because of that, I'd highly recommend either Quicksilver Storm, Final Warning, or Barrow Dyad. In terms of armor stats to focus, there are 3 armor stats that would benefit this build significantly, with those being Weapons, Class, and Grenade. The best pairings I'd suggest would be to use Weapons and Class, or Weapons and Grenade, as having 200 stat points into Weapons will grant you a bonus to weapon damage, while having 200 stat points into either Class or Grenade will increase the ability generation for whichever stat you focused. If you decide to focus Class and Grenade instead, well, that's okay. It's important to note that heading into the Edge of Fate, it'll actually be impossible to get armor with stat spikes in both the Class and Grenade stats, meaning you'll need to start focusing armor that has stat spikes in Recovery and Discipline, as these 2 stats will focus into Class and Grenade when the Edge of Fate launches. That said, if you opt to focus weapons as one of your stats, then you don't need to worry about preemptively focusing armor before the new expansion. In terms of artifact mods to focus, The usual suspects for Strand builds will work well, with those being Flame, Fiber and Freeze, Tightly Woven, Elemental Benevolence, Refresh Threads, Threaded Blast, and Tangled Web. Additionally, you can pick up Reciprocal Draw if you choose to use Final Warning with this build, as it'll grant you bonus sidearm damage when dealing damage with other weapons. Well, that'll wrap up today's video. If you found it helpful, a like rating would be greatly appreciated, and consider subscribing to the channel for more Destiny 2 content dropping weekly, and to be notified when the Hunter edition of this video releases. As I mentioned in the intro, the Titan edition of this video has been out for a few days, so I'd recommend watching that if you'd like some inspiration for Titan builds to use in the upcoming expansion. Otherwise, follow me on my Twitch over at twitch.tv/SniperKH_ to catch me live, as I've been live streaming more consistently, and I'd love to see you all stop by. Finally, check out my social media platforms linked below for updates on when I upload and go live. With that being said, I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.